You're watching The 7 from WATE 6 on your side.
Good evening, I'm Don Hudson, and welcome to The 7. We begin with a look at the big 7 stories, and topping the list tonight, Governor Lee announcing he will take new steps to try to protect Tennesseans in the wake of the mass shooting at Covenant School in Nashville. The governor saying today he will be signing an executive order to improve background checks for guns. The governor adding the current background checks only work if the information is accurate and that information is updated. He says this new order will set a 72-hour clock for courts to report new crimes into the system. The governor also announcing he is asking Tennessee lawmakers for a new order of protection law that would help keep guns out of the hands of people who have shown to be a danger to themselves or to others.
We can all agree that it is possible and it is important that we find a way to remove individuals who are a threat to themselves or to our society, to remove them from access to weapons.
Now, the governor also speaking about the Tennessee 3 today when asked why he didn't address the situation as it was all unfolding or stepped into more of a leadership role during the conflict in the House. He says he preferred to focus on a solution to preventing another mass shooting like the one at the Covenant Christian School. The governor is also encouraging lawmakers to come together in the wake of that tragedy. And so far, both parties seem to be on board with the governor's proposal. The Senate Democrat leader saying, quote, "In this moment, our families deserve action to stop future gun violence. The governor is right to make this a priority before session ends." Now, she also mentioned the Black Caucus proposal to reduce gun violence last week that included an extreme risk protection order law. In a statement, she says, quote, "These are smart and effective solutions to keep kids and families safe. We are ready to work with the governor and the supermajority to get something done." Now, Republicans, Speaker of the House, also applauding the governor's leadership and saying, quote, "Commitment to finding solutions to stop tragedies like the Covenant School shooting from 2 weeks ago." In a statement, he goes on to say the House is willing to work toward bipartisan solutions to protect all children at their schools, in their communities, and inside of their homes. While the focus has been the actions and the controversy surrounding the Tennessee 3, the state's Republican supermajority has continued to work on a number of high-profile bills. And that is our next Big 7 story. Now, the efforts include bills targeting library books and police oversight boards, both of which are now moving forward. The Senate passing a bill that would charge publishers of books with a felony if they send obscene material to schools. But what would be considered obscene is unclear right now. Some say this will mainly scare and worry librarians, making them second-guess their professional judgment. However, the bill's sponsor says she is doing this in part because the current book review process is moving too slowly in her home district.
We're kind of voting on them one at a time. It's taking a really long time to review all of these books and hopefully remove them from the school. And so far, since the beginning of the year, they have voted on 3, and there's many more to be done.
Now, in addition to the books, also advancing is a bill that would get rid of community oversight boards that review police policies and actions. Instead, the bill would create police advisory and review committees. That bill has passed the Senate and is being considered right now in a House committee.
We're trying to bring uniformity across the state so all of them would be operating exactly the same way.
It worries me to come in on top and change what has been going on in all of these different places.
Now, another bill to amend Tennessee's abortion ban is on its way to the governor's desk for his signature, adding protections for the mother's life. It does not add any exceptions for rape and incest. All right, next up on the 7, Knoxville Representative Gloria Johnson has officially been put back on all of her committee assignments. Now, being removed from those committees was the first punishment that the legislature handed out after she and 2 other lawmakers took to the floor without being recognized. As we have told you and showed you, the Tennessee 3 stood in the center of the House well with a bullhorn or a megaphone calling for gun reform after the Covenant School shooting. The vote to expel Johnson failed last week, but again, her campaign manager confirming with us that her committee assignments have been restored. Meanwhile, Justin Pearson could also be back in the legislature really soon here. The Shelby County Commission is actually meeting tomorrow to vote on his reinstatement. Next up in the Big Seven, new details are emerging following that mass shooting in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, law enforcement and leaders in Louisville updated the investigation a few hours ago. Investigators now say the shooter, who they've identified as 25-year-old Connor Sturgeon, legally purchased the AR-15 rifle that he used in that shooting yesterday. Former coworkers say they're stunned. Sturgeon, who started at the bank as an intern and then went on to get a full-time job at the Old National Bank, would do something like this. As we've told you, 5 people have died. 4 others who were wounded remain hospitalized. That includes a rookie police officer named Nicholas Wilt, who was shot in the head and had to have brain surgery. It was apparently just his 4th shift as a police officer. Louisville's elected leaders say it is yet another example that the state and the country need some tougher laws.
We know this shooter purchased an AR-15 rifle on April 4th. We know he left a note. We know he texted or called at least one person to let them know he was suicidal and contemplating harm. But we don't have the tools on the books to deal with someone who is an imminent danger to themselves or to others.
Officer Wilt, by the way, remains in critical condition. A second officer injured but was just grazed by a bullet. We're told the city has planned a vigil for tomorrow evening. The chief of the Louisville Metro Police has said that they plan to release officers' body camera footage from that incident sometime soon. We'll let you know when that evidence is released. Next on the Big Seven, a family now grieving after their 18-year-old son died in an ATV crash. The Anderson County Sheriff's Office responding to the ATV crash Saturday night at Windrock Park. That accident claiming the life of Riley Gertz. Gertz's family tells us he was working at Y-12 in the Carpenter Union. His family describes Riley as the baby of the family who would help anyone who needed it, cared about his family and friends, and loved anything that involved the outdoors.
He loved everything outside. He just got a boat. He loved fishing and duck hunting and helping his dad around the farm. He loved Windrock. He loved what he was doing when he died.
His family obviously heartbroken right now, and they say the best way that people can show their support and help them through this difficult time is to continue to keep them in their prayers. Riley was the passenger on that ATV, by the way. A 17-year-old was driving it, and he went to the hospital as well, according to police, but has since been released. The Anderson County Sheriff's Office says the investigation into that fatal accident is still ongoing. Well, progress is moving along on what is being called the 407 Gateway to Adventure in Sevier County. Now, the biggest Buc-ee's yet, set to open next month. A new announcement today made by the developers. Now, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, they're the owners of the property, and along with their developing partners, announced today the next phase of what they're hoping will be a huge tourist attraction. It's called Smoky Gap. It's supposed to be an entertainment district set in the early 1900s. It's going to feature some restaurants, retail shops, and some immersive experiences as well.
When you look at projects of this magnitude, it requires visionaries, and oftentimes that's the most difficult thing, right? To get the folks who aren't involved in the day-to-day, kind of how the sausage is made, to get them to understand what it's going to be. So we cast the vision, and then, again, why I mentioned earlier, really grateful to our tribal council. They're the appropriators. They're the ones who have to capture the vision as well and then put the money to it.
Now, we are told that once a project is complete, they plan to hire close to 500 employees. Now, our understanding is that Smoky Gap probably open in 2025. Buc-ee's is set to open here this summer. All right, after 3 years, the COVID emergency is now over. That is our final Big Seven story. Yesterday, President Biden signing a bipartisan congressional resolution to bring the national emergency to a close after the 3 years. It comes just weeks before it was set to expire alongside a separate public health emergency. The national emergency allowed the government to really take sweeping steps to respond to the virus and support the country's economic health and welfare system. Some of the emergency measures have already been successfully drawn down, so to speak, while others are still being phased out.